Hello everyone, welcome to Learn Text with Aniket's channel. Today in this video we will see how you can deploy one Springboot application in Docker environment. So for this video the steps will be: first we will create one Springboot application, then we will expose one or two REST endpoints from our application, and then we will create a Docker file. So using that Docker file, we will deploy our application in the Docker environment, and then we will test via Docker environment whether we are being able to access our endpoints. So I hope the agenda of this video is clear to everyone. So without wasting time, let's get started. The first step is to have our Spring Boot application first. So for that, I will be using Spring Initializer today. So to create our application framework first. So if you are not aware of the Spring Initializer, so to create your first Spring Boot application, what you can go do is like you can search with Spring Initializer in your browser. The first URL you can see that is with start.spring.io. So if you click on it, it will take you to this page. As is a very useful utility tool, so you can configure your project. So first I will be choosing I want Maven as a build tool for my application. I want Java language to be there. I want version, and then you can you can put your package name, you can group name, everything, and then you can also choose the packaging type, whether it would be jar or where, or the Java version that you are going to use, everything. And in the right side you can add number of dependencies that are available so during the project creation itself. Okay, so that is a very useful tool of Spring Initializer. So I have created the setup already. So for our project we will be using Maven, and language will be Java only. Spring Boot version is already chosen, the stable version 3.0.4, and I have renamed the package name and all. And for this video I'm using Java version as 11, because as of now in my system I'm only having Java 11, and we will be only using these dependencies because we will be exposing one or two REST endpoints. Okay, so that's it. Okay, let me add another dependency, which is dev tools, Spring Boot dev tools. So it's very useful when you are developing your application. So let me generate it. Okay, so we got this file. So let me delete this because I have downloaded this previously. So this zip file is recently downloaded. So let me just unzip. Okay, so let us import this Spring Boot Docker project in IntelliJ. So we are going to allocate that project. Okay, from here, first project. Okay, okay, great. So yeah, so all these dependencies which we have mentioned, so mostly we have mentioned two dependencies. If you see, Spring Boot Starter Web and Spring Boot DevTools. Apart from these two dependencies, there are lots of other dependencies also get initialized now. So why? Because of this parent tag. Okay, okay guys. So what we did, like we need to refresh the project because we were, the last time the project was not refreshed properly. So for that we can click on form XML and then go to Maven and then reload project. So if you refresh, like importing the dependency was not successful, so you can try these steps. And one more thing I forgot to mention. So if you go to form XML, the Spring Boot version that we are currently using, that is 3.0.4. okay, so for this version actually we need Java version 17 or above. Okay, so for that reason I installed Java in my system, and I'm going to carry forward this application with Java 17 only. Okay, so for that, for our demo application, we need to create one REST endpoint. So as this video is only for showing like Spring Boot application inside a Docker, so I will not make any complex changes with REST controller. So a simple controller we will introduce here. So for that, let me add one package first. That will be a controller package, and inside that package we will create our uh, REST endpoint classes. So okay, so we need to give the name, sorry, app controller, let's say. And we create it, we need to annotate this class with REST controller, and we will expose one method called get version. Okay, so this method will be returning a static value. Okay. So okay, in order to check whether every time my controller, my API actually giving me dynamic value, so let's say we create this API in this way. So every time we pass whatever the parameter to this API, we will receive that parameter. Okay, so what I meant, like it should be parameter specific API. So set says, and we will be returning only version. Okay, and we will make sure like this value is provided. So for that we can add this okay, for required I need another separate library. Let's forget about this. So let's add this gate mapping, and inside this gate mapping we will do like v, and let's say version it is, and we will do the path variable as string version. Okay, we'll be returning that version, and let me add a API level at the class level. So for the request mapping, that would be API. So so when our application will up, we can access this API by accessing localhost colon the port. The default port would be 880, and then slash API slash v, and after that whatever we provide this parameter, so this parameter will be returned back. Okay, so let us start the application now. So first we will check in from the local itself whether this application is up and running and getting successful, the API response. So for that, yes, so it's the default port, the Springboot is running a default port. So let us go to this port now. Okay. So localhost 8080 v say 1.0. okay, so we are getting this version. So let us change it would change to 2.0. so we are getting back whatever we are providing at this endpoint. Correct. So our application, the Spring Boot application, is ready. Okay, now we need to deploy our application in Docker environment, right? So now what we will do, we will create a Docker file, okay, inside our application. So what is Docker file for? So whenever we are going to create the image from our application, the Docker will first try to find out the Docker file, because the Docker file will hold all the instruction how you will going to create your application image. Okay, so on the top of that image, your like your container will run and your application will be started. Okay, so for that, let us first create a Docker file under our main application. Oh sorry, I just created as a class file. Let me remove this. Shouldn't be the class file. New file. So as our application is based on Java application, okay, so we need to have this Java already set when our container is running, because we need the container to have a Java environment. So for that, for our application or for our application image, the base image would be of Java. Okay, so for that reason, I am going to use this as a base library or base image inside our application image. Okay, so this is actually mentioned in Docker documents. So apart from this library or image, you can also find varieties like variation of Java images, okay, to be used as a base image. But for this application, we will be using that image. Where it gone? Okay. So we will start by doing this. Okay, then I will set the working directory as app. So inside the image, the environment, the uh, the Linux environment which is going to be created when this container will run. Okay, so that environment, inside that environment, the working directory I am considering as /app. Okay, in the next step, what I will do, so as we are going to as we have executed maven clean install under this project, a target folder gets created and this library also got created, right? This jar file also got created. So we need to have this jar file placed inside that container, the container that we are going to run, right? So for that we need to copy this jar file. So what we will do, copy and then target. From that, the jar file name we need to consider. Do we have refactor? Yeah, we have. Okay, let me just copy the name, that's it, and then we will be put inside this build folder, and the build folder will be present under app directory inside the container. Okay, now we have copied the file. The next command would be changing the working directory once again, because currently we are at /app, but our jar is copied at /app/build. Okay, so we need to go inside this build folder, and let me just, for simplicity, let me just change the destination jar file name as app.jar. Okay, so we need to again changing the working directory as /build. Okay, now we will be mentioning the command which will be actually make your application up when the container will be running. Okay, so that command would be java -jar app.jar. Okay, so that's it. That's very simple commands to run your application. It's a 4-line commands. You can see even though you are not, even you can ignore this line. In that case, you need to mention the build folder here like this way, build /app.jar, then also it will trigger your application. Okay, now let's save this file and let's open a terminal. Go inside your project directory, okay, we have this docker file. So what we need to do, docker build -t docker demo Springboot. Okay, and we need to provide dot. So dot means the current directory. So here from the current directory we need to create the docker image. So in this directory, docker will try to find out a file called Dockerfile. Okay, so we'll just hit enter. The base image will start downloaded and is downloaded. Okay, and actually it depends on your internet speeds. This base image actually will take time. So I already have used this image previously, so this image was already there with in my system. So actually that's why this image didn't take time for me to get downloaded. Now let us check the image whether the image is created or not. So for that you can write docker image ls command. So if you see, we have this application docker demo Springboot. Okay, now let's run this image. To run this image we need we have a command called docker run. So now after docker run, we can simply put this image id or the image name itself. Oh, sorry. Okay, now the thing is if we just hit enter with this command docker run docker demo Springboot, so our application is going to create one tomcat, internal tomcat, and host our application in 8080, right? That is going to be hosted inside a container. So what is it like? You are running this application, you are running this application in your host machine. So inside your host machine there will be a virtual container will gets created, and inside that container your application will be running at 8080. So after running this command, you cannot simply access localhost 8080 your application APIs, because that your application is only going to run inside a virtual container, not on the host machine. Okay, so in order to make a link between your host machine and your container, we need to mention the expose. We need to expose our port, okay, from the container to host machine. So for that, what we can write here is -p, or in place of -p you can also mention -expose. Okay, so -p, then you need to mention the host machine URL, host machine port number, that which is, let's say we want to run our application which is running at 8080 from container. Okay, so that is the host machine port colon your containers port or your application port. Okay, so docker run -p. So I hope that will be enough for this. Okay, we got a error. What is it? Error response on your driver failed programming external connectivity on endpoint bind 9090 port is already allocated. Okay, I believe on my host machine this 9090 port is already been utilized, so let me just change this port to 9091. Okay. Yeah, so you can see this log is getting printed. This log is basically from your container itself. Okay, and if you see Tomcat started port 8080, that doesn't mean like Tomcat is started on your host machine. As I mentioned, this log is coming from your container. So on containers 8080 you can access your application, but to access from host machine you need to access 9091. Okay, so let me open the browser and go to, first let me show you whether by 8080 I can access or not. Okay, so our URL was api/v/ let's say 1.0. see, the site cannot be raised. So even though I tried to access 8080 from my host machine, it's not being able to access, because on my host machine at 8080 the application is not running. On my host machine there is a container, virtual container. Inside that container 8080 port is being used. So we have mapped that 8080 containers 8080 port to our host machine 9091 port. If I hit, so we are being able to access. So if I change this value, let's say 8.9, will be receiving that. Okay, so you know, like we can also check from terminal how many containers are running currently. So for that you can do docker container ls. If you see okay, I had one other application which was running at 8080, that's why at 9090, that's why during initializing this application with 9090 it was throwing error. Okay, so these two containers are currently running on my machine. So if you want to close any container, so what you can do, docker container stop, you can provide the container's name or container's ID. So let me close this container which I don't need. Okay, so it should be closing the container in some time. Okay, it closed the container. Let us check whether the container is closed again. See, currently this container is running only, not this one. So the same way you can also close this container. So after closing a container, if you want to see what were the containers were running previously, because by this command now only active containers are being shown. If you want to show all the containers, then with this existing command you need to pass -a. So it will show all the containers that has been running in your system. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. I hope like you people have got some idea about how you can host your Docker your Springboot application inside a Docker, and how you can map the ports from containers to your host machine. Okay, so if you guys think like if you guys have any doubts from this tutorial, please don't forget to leave the comment. Okay, I will definitely try to like revert you back on your comments. And if you guys want me to make any other videos on Dockers on any particular Dockers topic, also do mention. So that's all guys, and don't forget to subscribe my channel and also share this video among your circles so that it may help others. Thank you.